So it'll be interesting to go back and see all of that. I'm glad that they're making the decision to tie it to the sub versus having it be its own thing. I think that it may bring new people back into current World of Warcraft, but I don't foresee that being the crossover being that big. Could be wrong. With that.
Did they plan to roll out the expansions like EverQuest did?
At this point in time, I think they have a plan to incrementally release different patches for the content. But I don't believe that there's any timeline or any talk right now about doing anything other than vanilla as far as the server goes.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they are redoing all of the vanilla events. So the opening of AQ40 is going to be another thing. And I watched my wife go through that quest line, and boy, is it fun! Boy, is that ever going to be fun for servers.
You know what I wonder though is, can you really go home again? Is that I feel like so many people they cry out for this because they have nostalgia for it, but how long are they actually going to play it? Because when most of us found World of Warcraft or whatever our first MMO was, that was a point in time, in our lives, not just in our gaming lives, but in our lives. So it's very, very hard to recapture those early feelings because, let's face it, WoW was most people's first MMO, and you're going into that sense of wonder, having never, or maybe in a very limited way, experienced a game like this before. So going back into that, it's just a challenging thing to try to go back in time, especially because we've all gotten so used to the amenities of modern World of Warcraft.
Oh, yes. And
not all of us.
Well, it's okay, Bowman. For me, that's exactly the place where I'm at with it, Chris. Is that I think that we want the idea of it, but I think that once it launches and once people wholesale get that experience, it's going to be a very, very quick flash before people realize, oh, hey, I have to level each individual weapon up to be able to actually hit something. And, oh, hey, I actually have to talk to people to form groups with other people. Raids, the preparation for raids and even the attunement for raids was a mission in and of itself. I think that there's something about going back and experiencing that stuff that has that nostalgic lure, and I think you're absolutely right, Chris, in saying that there's a point in time in which that captions. But nostalgia is a funny thing. It always makes things look either way better than they actually were, or if it's a negative experience, it usually makes it, nostalgia and time separating usually makes it be, a more harrowing thing than it actually was.
Well, I don't know. It was pretty harrowing because I went back. This was a long time ago now, but my very first character, he was a level 36 or 34 paladin, and I had 238 hours logged on him to get him to that point. And at the same time, I had a level 80 or 70. Again, this was a long time ago, but that character had 120 hours. Mm-hmm. On him, which to me is a testament of just how different that experience was. Number one, and how long everything took, but also. Yep. I think I was really taking my time to smell the roses. It was also back in my role-playing days, so I did a lot of walking around talking like a Scotsman as a dwarf. I was a dwarf paladin, so
a Scottish dwarf.
Well, the other
walking around with his pickaxe,
not the beard.
The other thing with that too is that you have to remember, especially with games like Lord of the Rings Online and World of Warcraft, is this is one of the first moments where people who played the Warcraft games or were invested in Tolkien's universe had the opportunity to actually step into these places and explore them for the first time. So your your Warcraft players who played the RTS games, going into the Dead Mines for the first time was a big deal. It was a location from the first RTS game, and so and even with Lord of the Rings Online, I will never forget that first moment running through the Shire. Getting to see things and having that world come to life. The first time encountering a Borrowite, was a fantastic moment. And so there are things like that I can go get. Like, yeah, there is a certain bit of wonder that I wonder if we can recapture from the standpoint of it's already been done. It's not new. We're not seeing something new. We're just kind of getting what was 8, 10 plus years earlier.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing that really could change your whole feeling about it too is when you first started playing the game. I mean, none of us were working here, I'm sure, with MMORPG at that point. So I'm sure all of us had pretty basic computers. So at least I did. You play Lord of the Rings or something for the first time, and you're playing on low or very low graphics because your computer can't handle it. Now we're sitting here. I'm playing Lord of the Rings on Ultra. And I'm sitting here like my first experience was like, okay, I love Lord of the Rings. Now I'm like, oh my god, I love it even more because you can see everything. You can see the detail and the trees and everything's blowing around and everything. It makes it 10 times better.
The character models are still iffy, I'll say, but the environments in that game are just beautiful. Like, yes. Oh my goodness.
Like I remember I ran through a puddle or a stream and it's like a glass. It's like a mirror.
Yeah. I remember when I was playing on the toaster, as you described back then, and then I got an actual dedicated graphics card, and I was able to crank everything up, and I remember just running around, just taking everything in. That was such a wonderful realization of Tolkien's world. Like, it has not been trumped since.
Yeah, and I would absolutely agree with that. My biggest hang up with Lord of the Rings Online was and is that the pacing was just felt terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
It felt like it took forever to get anywhere, and maybe it's just because being an MMO player and having that experience with World of Warcraft and with Rift and a little bit of Star Trek Online, SWTOR and stuff like that. I wonder if my experience of the pacing of some of those games set me up for an unrealistic expectation of what Lord of the Rings Online was supposed to be. I agree. It is a beautiful envisioning of Tolkien's world, and having read through the books as many times as I have, to be able to capture what was in my imagination and see it there, it's yeah, this is the thing, this is where it was, but again, it felt like you were really gated behind where you could go and what you could do because the pacing of everything was just really, really, really slow.
That's such a good point, because I actually never even got into Moria. I leveled up into the mid-40s, and I got to the snowy zone, and it was just so grindy after a certain point, where I just didn't have it in me. Although when that game first came out, and people were or not when it first came out, really. It was when it first came out, and then when they introduced turbine points, where you could complete the deeds to get turbine points. There were so many blogs I was reading, and you'd go on Twitter, and people were posting pictures that they've killed 1,000 spiders for their 15 cents in turbine points. Yep. I'm I'm just not doing that. This is a great game, but I'm not killing 1,000 spiders for any reason, unless it's over the course of about 87 levels. That's the only time that's happening. Do you remember, though, walking through it was an autumnal zone, but you come across the trolls from The Hobbit that are statues?
Troll straws.
Yes, that was such an awesome moment. I remember coming upon that, and I'm like, oh, It's them. Like they're there.
Super close. It's super close to Rivendell.
Yes, it
It's
was
right after you leave. Oh man.
Yeah, and
it's as you're going down the eastern road.
Right.
And I do have to say, like going down into Rivendell was just, it was still
amazing.
Like a very, very amazing, iconic moment. So good.
If you look at Rivendell and how you get into it in the game, and then you watch Lord of the Rings, I mean, it's pretty close. In all fairness. So they did a really good job putting that together in this game.
The other thing, like years ago, that sold me on it though was their epic quests, where it would instance you away and give you like bits of story. Because like, let's not forget, they were like one of the first games to do like dedicated, you're being swept away into this thick, meaty story we're delivering. Other games weren't doing that. They were doing the exclamation point over the head only type storytelling. I mean,
you need to read everything.
Yeah, but when I was going for that drunken night of getting to play, I went through a drunken rationalization. I'm like, well, you see, they're going to come out with these stories for a while, and bye. But no, seriously, that was part of my rationalization for the $200 purchase too. Is they were delivering story that I cared about, and they were doing it in an innovative way, and like the industry like has taken that and really ran with it.
Well, you'd say so, but they're kind of doing the opposite here, where they're going backwards in the story for the legacy servers, and I don't want to spend the entire time throwing darts at classic servers. And you know, Chris also kind of mentioned a lot of what I was kind of wondering myself, you know, in terms of how long people are going to want to play it. But before we move on to some of the other news, because we're kind of, I mean, we already started late and we're already kind of going over what I had set for this topic, but why do you think that companies are bringing in these legacy servers? I mean, is it basically just loading up an old build to cash in on nostalgia, or do you really think that there's like a market for companies where they're going to want to put out legacy servers and it's going to become like a relevant kind of other avenue for games that already exist to continue monetizing somehow?
I think that there's definitely a place for it. I think that there are people that really enjoy that experience and enjoy that investment of time and the memories and stuff like that were created in those spaces. I mean, if you look at some of the trends with private servers for World of Warcraft, I mean, there were you can chuck a stone and find a private server. There was a time when you could chuck a stone and find a private server, and Blizzard usually shut it down shortly after that. But there were thousands of people that were engaged in this, you know, this one snapshot of time within World of Warcraft. And that would, you know, play within that. You know, I think that is a thing that there will be people who will enjoy that for their main experience. There will be some people that kind of dip their toes into it. Again, you know, like I said, I will probably dip my toes back into it just to remember where we came from.
Just to feel the water.
Well, and I think that that's something important too. Whether it's in video games or you know, MMOs or whatever, I think sometimes it's really important to take a look back and see, like, where have I progressed from? Like, where did some of the adversity of standing in Kargath and waiting for groups, where did that lead? You know, or where did some of these experiences what did some of these experiences do to help me become the person or the gamer that I am, or give me the experience that I'm having today? And in the meantime, as I'm talking about this, I can't help but notice Steven trying to get Chris's picture up on the screen and giving him a fancy hat as well.
Well, you know, you gotta do what you can.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's another side of this though. You made very very astute points, Dame, and there's a whole lot of truth to that. The fact is though, we're also becoming old men and old women, and that's, I say that tongue in cheek, but it's true because. All right. I'm gonna talk to you about my Lucky Charms if you keep this up, Steven.
They're always after me Lucky Charms.
These servers are magically delicious. I can't do an Irish accent, so you're gonna make me embarrass myself. But no, the fact that we're older and we're now aging to the point where they can start to sell us this, like nostalgia sells, the SNES Classic, the NES Classic, the Atari Classic, the Sega Classic, and the PlayStation Classic all tell us that there is money to be made on people like us.
And the ColecoVision Classic as well.
Yeah.
Yes. And stay tuned because there's going to be like a Pentium 435 coming out soon or whatever it was.
So if you want one, I've got one up in the attic.
Dude, throw that away. It's a decade old.
No,
Hoarder.
No.
I'm going to bring it over to your house and you're going to see this.
It's going to be the 486. And it's gonna have the original Doom and all of the suite of LucasArts games, including Star Wars Dark Forces, Day of the Tentacle, and all of that. So
it may very
meanwhile
well
it'll
some
struggle
of that stuff on it.
Meanwhile, it's gonna struggle to run calculator.
Yes.
I would love to turn it on and see what's still on it. I think I only had like a 200 gigabyte hard drive or something. Maybe even 50 gigabytes.
And I think I should take this moment right now to just say Pika! Pika! For those of you who are listening to the podcast audio, Steven has now put a Pikachu hat on me.
We've talked too long when Steven is amusing himself by dressing up our web.
I had a little bit of time since I'm really, as far as like classic servers go, I do not care. It means nothing to me. Like I legacy servers are great, and for the people who want them, and nostalgia is a big part of it. And I think I would love to go back in time to the games long past, Marvel Heroes, City of Heroes, Star Wars Galaxies. Shut up, Bowman. I'm not talking about emulator projects. I think that it's.
I wasn't nodding about an emulator project. I would love to have the Star Wars Galaxy servers back up and running.
I know where it was going.
Yeah, that's why he said shut up, Bowman, because he knew exactly. You guys have podcasted enough where, yeah.
So, I just, none of this really means much to me. And, Bowman was wearing a hat already, so everybody else needed a hat. Well, we have a lot of news that I want to get to. Some pretty cool stuff that is going on in the next couple weeks, some stuff that's already happened, and we're going to kind of get into a little bit of that. And I think the biggest thing that we're all excited about, every last one of us, is that Torchlight Frontiers, guys, it's coming next week in alpha. Woo! So alpha testing, alpha testers, all things alpha. And I think we'll be looking forward to this release. So what do you guys think of this news? You guys, I know that there's a chance that some of us may get into alpha. What do you guys think? Anybody know if they're in or not?
Never played Torchlight.
I know that I'm not in. I know that I'm not in, but I am excited that there's something that's playable, and that this isn't just. So Torchlight is kind of one of those interesting franchises where I don't want to call myself like a super fan of it, because like I wasn't really riding the Torchlight train until after, far after it was released. But my friend Matt is a huge Torchlight fan, and so this is a big deal, because this is one of those games that he and I played together, and we found ways to play Torchlight 1 together when it wasn't multiplayer, and played Torchlight 2 a bit. And I'm always up for a good like ARPG style game, and the fact that they are making this like ARPG MMO is very, very exciting, and that they actually have something that they're getting into the hands of people to play, and it's not just going to be a vaporware thing. Right. I cannot tell you how excited I am about that.
Well, I'm right there with you. You know, I've been a fan of the games. I've played, you know, the Torchlight games, both of them. You know, I've also played games that were very similar, like Fate. You know, so I'm really, you know, excited to see what this game has. I don't think that I'm going to be in the alpha either, but it's just, like you said, it's really nice to know that there's something on the horizon, that they're making this, that it's, you know, that it's already in alpha. And you know, this isn't the first time that something's been playable that we know about. I mean, they were at a few of the shows before, and they had playable items before that people have gone through and given a shot at, and I've only heard good things so far.
Same here. I have heard nothing but high praise of what people have experienced so far. And if you have something that at this stage is that polished, man, I'm excited for it. And we also want to welcome Bono to the stream right now.
You know what? I was just trying to join my friend Chris with, like, be simpatico here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
don't
thought
look like Bono.
I was expecting you to like lean in the name of
You know what I'm noticing, though? You can see everything that's on my monitor right now. If I tilt my head up enough, like, you can tell I'm looking at the Torchlight webpage. Yeah. Torchlight is a pretty cool game. I didn't realize they were actually going to go with the ARPG
absolutely.
Design of it, though. Because when they first announced it as an MMO, I guess I conceptualized it more as a traditional MMO. But are you guys worried at all, though, that this might be a little bit too competitive of a space for them to be in? Like, I mean, assuming, like, we have Path of Exile, you have to assume Diablo 4 at some point is going to have some expansive multiplayer elements. And it's like they're coming into a competitive market, I guess.
Yes. I would agree, but I would also disagree that they're going to experience the type of competition that would push them out of the market, because Torchlight has always been very, very stylized in its art direction, in its storytelling delivery, and it's had a little bit of a whimsy to it that is absent from Diablo and from Path of Exile. So I would say that, yeah, I mean, you do have to assume that there's going to be some level of competition with those games, but I think that there's space for it. I absolutely think that there's space for it.
Well, I hope
agree
so.
With that. Yeah, I agree with that, because you know,
and ferrets. You get ferrets. Like, who doesn't want a ferret companion or a dog or cat run along with them that they can send to town with their inventory?
If Dar the Beastmaster can do it, we can all do it.
That's true. Well, I know that the alpha is very limited, and I know that I think they said that it's already been filled for this go around. But you know, if there's an alpha, there's going to be more alphas. There's going to be betas, and I think I really think that they're going to kind of stand alone here, because you know, while there are games like Path of Exile and games like that, they are. It's almost like another branch of what Torchlight accomplishes, the action RPG. The way that Torchlight did it was just a little bit different, you know, even though the loot system's very similar. It just, the almost endless possibilities of dungeon running, and the way that Torchlight 2 handled the multiplayer, I really think that what they're going to have here is a stellar game in the action RPG space that we haven't seen yet. And so I think competition wise, we're not really gonna have to worry about it too much. And I'm interested to see, I don't recall if they've talked about all the platforms it's going to release on. Do we know yet if they've said that it's going to be on all platforms, or what we can expect there?
I'm not up on that.
Well, great. We will find out at a later date. We've got some more news, and this is an interesting bit of news. So DC Universe Online, they have released a new world, an entire world. It's more like a city, and from what I've seen, they're taking a cue directly from The Little Mermaid by saying everything's better down where it's wetter, because it's the Atlantis update. Players will be able to dive into Atlantis and swim around and fight underwater crime, and honestly, I haven't had a look quite yet. But you know, I know that they've been kind of building up to this, and I know that Aquaman's coming out in December, so they've kind of got a lot to go on as far as Atlantis goes. You know, I'm excited to see a new world, and we have an interview coming out on MMO pretty soon that's going to talk a little bit more about this with a bunch of questions that new and returning players might want to know about. So, you know, if they're interested in the Atlantis update and they want to hop in and pretend they're fish or whatever you do, you know, definitely check out the interview. But, you know, I think I'm the only one here who still goes back and plays DCUO. Am I right in that, in saying that I'm probably the only one here? Okay.
I have it installed.
Yeah, that's one step closer than you were a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I had installed it too. It never really resonated with me.
And that's understandable. A lot of people
when the game first came out, the UI was so like I didn't know where to go for half the stuff. So I played it for a good month or two, and then I stopped and came back and was like, okay, still not that great. Whatever.
Well, you know, the thing that got me was the combat straight away, and now they've kind of changed that up a little bit, so it lost a little bit of its luster for me. While I can still play that way, it's not competitive to play that way anymore. So so I'm not, you know, I'm not really a fan as much as I once was of DCUO, but I'm definitely still in that vein of like, I want to try this out. I want to see the new world. I'm not a huge Aquaman fan, but I do love Atlantis. I mean, who doesn't love Atlantis? So I
like Lobster. Does that count?
It counts. It counts,
right.
Actually. And talking about smelly fish. So Blizzard has had a lot of snafus lately. Diablo Immortal was announced to the very wrong demographic and has been bashed ever since. They've announced that there are no plans for Warcraft 4 after the release of Warcraft 3 Reforged. People were not happy with that. The classic servers for World of Warcraft were attacked just this evening by us. I mean, in some way or another, we kind of attacked it a little bit.
We attacked its honor.
Yeah, and you know, some players are a little miffed about this Overwatch news, where the next update will require that the entire game be reinstalled before players can play again. While I don't think this Overwatch news hurts us because none of us play it, I guess religiously. But I have to ask, after a decade of World of Warcraft, can Blizzard do anything right?
Well, here's that Blizzard has experienced a lot of upheaval in the last year. I mean, if you look at some of the leadership turnover, I mean, you had both Mike Morhaime and Chris Metzen that both stepped away from leadership roles. I mean, these were some of the founding pillars of Blizzard Entertainment. And so you have the torch that's being passed to a new generation of people and dearly beloved IP, you know, within those. I think that there is a fair bit of the audience that I would say we're fickle people, right?
Of course.
You know, we're fickle people. I'm not sure. I think that there's ownership on both sides, right? Like with Diablo Immortal. I'll just throw this out there as an example. I know we talked a little bit about this before, but I think that having some time to kind of step back and look at the picture from the 15,000 feet up. I think that one of the things that I look at with that is one, they were breadcrumbing a lot of things that pointed to a major Diablo announcement for the franchise, especially in the absence of any real new big content. I mean, Diablo 3 has been out for what, 5-6 years now, and we've had one expansion. We've had a character pack with them adding the Necromancer, and outside of that, it's pretty much just been seasonal content, which is good, but it's nothing new. And so I think that with all of that breadcrumbing, there should have at least been a moment in which, during the Diablo Immortal announcement, that they said, guys, we know that you're hyped about this. We know that you're ready. We want to give that to you, but we're not quite there yet.
Right.
Here is something to hold you over.
They had a major announcement. It was just a major disappointment.
Well, but see, here's the thing: is
major.
with the way that they were, again, with the way that they were breadcrumbing, the way that they were hyping, you would have thought that it would have been a main series game that they were announcing, but they didn't, and
right.
so like that's where, again, like the onus is kind of on Blizzard for their packaging of it. But they did also say, like, pre-BlizzCon, hey, we want you to know we're not going to be releasing any information on this just yet because we're not ready to.
Right.
But there have also been situations too, like a la Nintendo, where it's like, oh, hey, you thought this was all there was, and we're not announcing any new characters for Smash, and suddenly Piranha Plant.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was a situation like that where the fan base just was like, well, they said they're not going to, but it is BlizzCon, and they have been doing this, and people are trying to read the portents of what's going on, and then, they just end up with the situation of, is this a joke? And unfortunately, it really deflated what could have been an otherwise really interesting take for the IP. I mean, Blizzard is very protective of its IP.
Yeah,
they're very, very, very protective of their IP, and typically speaking, when they try something new, with the exception of StarCraft for Nintendo 64, they typically do very well with it.
You'd imagine.
You'd imagine. But I guess my take on it is with all of the upheaval at the organization from a leadership standpoint, and some of the mishandling of presentation, I wonder if they're just kind of in a perfect storm situation right now.
I guess that's one way to put it. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Honestly, I don't think that Diablo Immortal was that bad of an announcement, but I'm also the kind of guy.
Expected.
I'm the kind of guy who likes games like that too. I don't think like my mobile games and my mobile action RPGs are never going to take away from the action RPGs that I play on my console and my PC. Right. But they're a fun diversion, and right now I'm kind of engrossed in one, so I can't really complain. I mean, I actually spend more time playing that game than any other game possible, and I think that a lot of people are going to find that once they give it a chance, I think Diablo Immortal is going to outlive all the rest of the games, probably, more than likely. And that's just the way that I see it. But I don't know. I know I'm going to try and play it. What about, are you guys going to check it out, see how it goes?
Yeah, that was something that I thought of immediately, upon seeing the reaction at BlizzCon. I know people were disappointed. Every single one of those people is going to download that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Every one of them.
I do have to say just to kind of add on to there, though, that also the comment of, you all have phones.
I was just going to say the same thing.
was maybe a little bit pandering mixed with fueling a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
We're okay, what if I don't have a phone? Or what if I don't have a phone that can run this?
I would have been the first one to stand up and said, I don't have a phone. You gonna give me a phone? I will play your game. Give me a phone.
The thing can't do that because Nintendo's kind of already cornered that answer, that we have a game that you're going to want to buy the phone for, and I think Blizzard's would try and push that. If you don't have a phone that can play this game, you get a phone that can play this game. We've seen stuff, like that in other markets. I don't know why it wouldn't be in this one too.
They're going to make so much money on this game. Number one, like just ridiculous amounts of money. Now, the greater concern here, I think, is less that it's a mobile game and more that there are rumors that it's not even like a ground up thing like they're claiming it to be. And you guys would probably know more about this than me. So they're saying it's built from the ground up by Blizzard, I believe. However, they're like working with NetEase, who has a game that looks very similar, and they've tried to ape Diablo. So the rumors are that this is actually NetEase's project. Blizzard is signing off on it. Like, I don't think Blizzard would sign off on it if it wasn't a good game, number one. But if they're essentially selling something that as one thing and it's actually another, that's kind of a different ball game, in my opinion. Like, that could leave more consumer distaste than initially, like a botched announcement.
Yeah, well, I really don't know. I mean, I haven't been following it that much, and I don't think either of you know really how much NetEase has involvement in it. I mean, I know that they do have games that are similar to it, but I don't.
Now is NetEase, is that the company that makes the little like steamer pot that you pour like the liquid through your nose and stuff like that when you have a cold?
I don't think.
No, that's a neti pot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Close. You kind of got the name recognition thing going.
Did you not feel terrible for the guy giving that presentation?
Oh, absolutely.
It must have been so hard. That's why when he said the phone thing, like I can forgive him for that, because standing up in front of all those people, knowing you're not going to give them what they want, like, and then they do those super cuts that are so cringeworthy, and the whole time I'm like, man, this poor guy. Like, they just sent him out there knowing this was going to happen, and he knew it was going to happen before he went out there.
I don't think that they did know. I honestly think that they thought that it was going to go over really well, and that people were going to be happy to know that they can take Diablo wherever they go.
Perhaps.
Can I make a fair request here too? Like, and this is kind of an across the board thing, and I realize that, like, video games are one of those things where, like, we are consumers of a good that makes people money. Okay, so there are companies that their job is to make money, right? Okay, so there's that element of it, but then there's the other side of this too, where this is something that people are working towards to pour their heart and their soul and their energy and their time and their talent into making these things. Yes, they're making them to make money. But I have to imagine from the people that I've met in the industry that they're doing this because they actually love doing this. Like, and they're finding a way to be able to make money to do the thing that they love to do.
Right.
And I guess I've just, and maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm weird, but I'll own that. But when I take a look at situations like this, like, I can't help but see the side of that too, where it's like, yes, I realize it's deflating, and I realize that it may not be the thing that people were expecting, but at the same point in time, this is something that people have poured energy into. They've poured themselves into making this thing, and again, like, looking at the legacy of a company like Blizzard Entertainment, they love their products. Right. They love their IP. They're not gonna put something out for the sake of just of a mindless cash grab. At least I don't see it like that. And maybe that's naivety, or maybe it's just because I'm weird or whatever. But, like, there's the human element of this that I cannot get beyond. Where, with Chris, I'm in the same boat. Like, I feel for the dude, because I've been in that place where you're trying to present something as exciting and it's just turd in the punch bowl,
Are we now dubbing this Deflategate 2.0?
Deflategate. There you go.
No, I think that title stays with Brady.
Well, we are just about out of time. I had one more little tidbit of news, so I'm just going to say it, and you guys are going to have to deal with it. On November 20th, the next DLC for Spider-Man on the PS4 is releasing, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you guys have played the Spider-Man PS4 yet, but we don't have enough time for you to answer. So I have not gotten to play the first DLC yet because I've been so busy with reviews and content and so on and so forth. So I'm looking forward to catching up on Thanksgiving break. I will say that I hate both these updates, the DLCs, even though I haven't played them yet. Both these updates I am disliking because they've teased that the third update will have Black Suit Spider-Man. So they know how to keep me on the line. Those wily characters, they know what I want, and they're going to force me to get all the DLC, not like I wasn't anyway, but they're going to force it on me so that I get my suit.
We'll get that Weber.
Excellent.
But if you guys haven't played the Spider-Man PS4, do it. Do it now. Do it immediately because it really is a fantastic game. And that's
if you buy it for me first.
And this is the point where we get to talk about our plugs. So this week,
and not hair plugs.
Maybe.
I'll speak for yourself.
Maybe with that we can start with Bowman. What do you got to plug this week?
Oh, well, I just had a couple things post on MMORPG recently. I had a Dreadnought review, the free-to-play MMO. I also had the Royal Moon 3D Theater headset that just posted today, I believe it was. And I had a Star Trek Online article that I started writing that posted online as well. So guys, go check that out. As far as new things, I'm currently reviewing my new throne, the Arazi Verona XL. And then got a case coming in for a review, as well as Townsman should be posting soon, which is a Switch game. It's a medieval RTS, basically, where you can build your medieval castle and village. There's some combat, but it's optional.
Sounds good. Sounds like a lot of good stuff. And go ahead and tell them where they can find such things.
Such things can be found at mmorpg.com. As far as me, you can find me anywhere on Twitch under the Wolf1, Twitter the Wolf_1, because somebody already stole my name on there.
How dare they?
I started putting some YouTube videos back on YouTube for some videos on YouTube. Thank you for Fallout 76 beta. Had a video, had some Star Trek Online gameplay videos. So you can find me under the Wolf One's Den, because I couldn't use the Wolf One there either.
Right.
Crying out loud.
And talking about crying out loud, Mr. Hardware Editor, what do we have to look forward to from you?
Well, this coming week we have, not from me, but I think people will like it, our gift guides for accessories and components. So if you're shopping for someone who's a techie, there's going to be lots of stuff in there. And this gives us a good chance to kind of look back at the many, many, many reviews we've done this last year. And let me tell you, it's kind of a big job. We had a spreadsheet set up to try to get all of these things in order and really choose what's the best. But the reality is we put out more reviews than anybody. We do a review almost every single day of the week. So when you want to talk about like sorting through for the best, we have probably I would bet we have over 300 reviews in the last year. Seriously.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah, we've done a great job like really pushing that content out. So that's going to come from Joseph Bradford and our very own Gazimov. I do have one kind of cool thing though. I'm reviewing a couch. Actually, which you can see in the background here.
I was going to ask you about that earlier.
Yeah.
Your gamer couch?
Okay, so let me tell you something. There was something kind of neat that happened with this. So the couch, it's like modular. It's like a futon, but each half of it can go up and down. You can take the cushions you'd sit on, and some of them like tilt up to make like armrests. It's pretty cool, but there's also like built-in USB and AC ports in it. But there is like an extension cord from the right side USB and AC ports that runs through the back. And I emailed the company. I said, I love the couch, but I'm a little concerned with this moving, that this could be a fire hazard. So one of the head guys in the company actually recorded a video, like 2 videos for me, actually demonstrating why it was safe and how like it's not subject to movement. I just thought that was really cool because I'm like, hey, I mean, I like the couch, but I don't want to die.
Yeah.
And
I just thought that he sent you a video of him on fire on the couch. Just like, oh.
Just there's a couch that says everything's fine.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty cool, and it did reassure me a little bit, because he was able to actually demonstrate that there really isn't any movement with it. So then what I'm left with is a pretty nice couch that will charge your devices for you and all that kind of stuff. So it's not a gaming couch, but it's perfect for an office like this one. So that's kind of neat, and that's going to come out on Wednesday.
Is it comfortable? Is the only question that matters about couches.
Yes. It is. It's incredibly heavy. Oh my gosh. Like,
I would imagine
ridiculously heavy. So I hope that means quality. It seems to right now. But you know what I say? If something's heavy, it's got to be good.
That's not it at all. But I will say that's probably the closest thing to being in a transformer that any of us are going to get, because I mean, it's modular, plugs things in. I mean, that's a transformer.
And zip yourself into the back of it.
Seen my couch.
Well,
does it have pretty flowers on it?
No, it's Optimus Prime. It is. Yeah. Where can they find these things? When are you going to post them?
Oh, okay. So the couch review goes up on Wednesday. The accessory and component guides are Thursday over at mmorpg.com. Oh, and Gaz and in Ed Orr, you might know him as Screenager, is putting up a service guide for your downloadables on Fridays. So this is our pre-holiday season. So yeah, check out mmorpg.com next week.
Cool. Excellent. Cool beans. And then Dame, what you got?
I have had a little bit of a lighter week in preparation for Fallout 76, so I've got a little bit of content for that you can find over on MMORPG. But I've got a couple of reviews that posted on GameSpace this last week. Probably one of my favorite games that I've played in recent history is a game called The Bug Butcher. The Bug Butcher feels like Earthworm Jim and Alien Hominid met in an arcade to play Space Invaders, and the residual DNA that was collected from that was used to make the Bug Butcher. I don't know if that paints the right picture for you or not, but it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
It depends on the person who's imagining that.
Yes.
Well, it sounds pretty good.
I was going to say, and if you were born after the 1990s, you're going like, what on earth are you saying? You're saying words?
Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim is one of the best games ever. Dude, you get to shoot cows down that are like hanging by chains.
I know.
Yes, they did.
I love that game.
Yeah.
I agree.
Awesome.
So that's kind of the big thing as far as articles go. If you want to continue the conversation about expectations versus reality, that was actually our topic this last week for Roll the Level. It's my podcast that I do with another one of our team members here at GameSpace and MMO, Matt Keith, and our good friend Sarah Cook. And you can find us on just about any podcasting thing. Roll the Level is a running conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order, and so really encourage you to check that out. But we actually did talk about the announcements at BlizzCon and stuff like that, and how we wrestle with expectations that aren't met, and what we do with that type of thing. So that episode is going to be posting, I believe Monday is when that's going to be up. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Pastor Dame. It's PASTORDAME, and or you can reach out to us at Roll the Level on Twitter as well. And Wednesday nights, our team has a live stream that you can check out. So
awesome.
That's me.
Word up.
There are a couple things I'm gonna plug for this week. My review of My Hero 1's Justice just came out on GameSpace a couple days ago, and let me tell you, if you're interested in My Hero Academia, you like it, you're kind of excited that they have a game out now, you want to know whether or not you should buy it, read the review, do yourself a favor.
So is it like plus ultra, minus ultra, or like equals sort of ultra?
It is ultra, and I think that, I think that you have to read the review to really understand what's going on. And it's going to kind of roll into the other thing that I'd like to plug, which is the Hero Signal. We are a podcast about superheroes, but we also have a channel on YouTube. And I'm going to be posting a video of all the specials. Quapow! That's the noise that they all make. They're all like, quapow! And I think you should check that out, because by far that is my favorite part of the game, is seeing these special moves. I actually have one in the review. Go check it out. It's like an animation of All Might just going to town, and it's worth the watch because it's so good. But check out the Hero Signal so you can see all the specials. We're gonna have video out on that this coming week. Also this coming week, I'm going to have the final launch review of Bless Online. So many things going on with Bless. They just did a big update, and I'm going to go through it all with a fine-ish tooth comb. I'm going to try and get as much done as I possibly can, and then compare how it's kind of progressed through the ages, the Bless ages. So you're going to want to read that if you, I guess, are interested in finding out what's going on with the Bless. I know that there's been a lot of controversy surrounding it, so maybe you want to read about it before you try it, or give it a second try, right, guys? Aside from that, the GameSpace Game Show can be found pretty much weekly here. You can find us on our podcast. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, what a tune in, wherever there's podcasts, we're there. Obviously, we're everywhere podcasts can be found. So definitely check out some of our past episodes. We've had some fantastic episodes. We have some fantastic episodes coming up, and I definitely want to start talking about doing maybe a hardware episode pretty soon as a gift buying guide for gamers, which we're definitely going to need to do before, I guess, I mean, it's going to have to be after Black Friday. So, you know, all those deals are probably going to go by the wayside. Nobody wants to camp out anyway in a tent and, you know, get frozen and what else? Not
unless it's for a Star Wars movie.
Yeah. I still don't know if sleeping in a tent and having people, you know, snuggle me that I don't know is really worth it. But, you know, to each their own, Bowman. But that's going to be it for this week, and we really appreciate everybody who tuned in, and you know, all the people who support us and check out the podcast. So thanks everybody out there, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.
Bye.